So I have an update for you in the nationwide block against the ATF's short-barreled rifle and pistol brace rule. So let's talk about what is happening. Now, really quick before we jump into this video, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. If you're watching this after Thanksgiving, or maybe if I released it after Thanksgiving, just wanted to say thank you guys so much for all of your support. I'm very thankful for all of you guys, everybody who watches my videos, everybody who has supported me over the years. I hope you guys have an amazing day with your friends and family. And also, I just wanted to mention that down in the detail section in the pinned comment, I'm gonna have some of my sponsors. I'm sure a lot of my sponsors here on the channel that are supporting us are gonna have Black Friday sales. So if you guys are interested in any of those, check them out using those links and just kind of some of the codes also linked down below. Like I mentioned, I have an update for you in the challenge against the ATF and their attempt to make all braced pistols as SBRs, trying to classify all of those firearms as SBRs and expand the definition of what an SBR is. The ATF just submitted their final briefs to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and they argued to the Fifth Circuit that the court there should remove the nationwide block against the pistol brace rule. That nationwide block is what is essentially currently protecting everybody in the United States and our ability to have and use braced pistols on certain configurations. The ATF now argues that the decision down below should be completely thrown out because they believe the NFA's tax requirement means that this lawsuit was improper from the start and should be thrown out. You may recall that the ATF recently decided to roll the dice and appealed all of those pistol brace cases up to the Fifth Circuit. They had appealed multiple cases like the Mock versus Garland case, the Berto case, I believe the NAGR case, and a lot of other cases in the GOA case that were up on appeal in the Fifth Circuit, but all of those involved preliminary injunctions, which is a temporary form of relief. A lot of those decisions were not final merits. The only one right now that's on final merits is the Mock case. Originally in the Mock case, the Fifth Circuit did find that the plaintiffs were likely to succeed on the merits of their arguments against what the ATF had done, and essentially they believed that the ATF did violate the APA, specifically with the logical outgrowth test. They believed there that the ATF was not consistent between the proposed rule and the final rule. Based on that, they sent the case back down to Judge O'Connor to not only reevaluate the preliminary injunction, which he did reevaluate, eventually did issue the preliminary injunction, but then he also reviewed the merits of that lawsuit as well, and eventually ruled on the final merits and vacated the entire rule. In his decision, Judge O'Connor stated that at the conclusion of the majority's careful analysis, they held that the final rule is properly characterized as a legislative rule, and it is relatively straightforward that the final rule was not a logical outgrowth of the proposed rule. Therefore, the final rule must be set aside as unlawful or otherwise remanded for appropriate remediation. Here, the court declines the defendant's invitation to relitigate this issue and once again adopts the majority's well-reasoned conclusion as its own. Consequently, the court finds that the final rule violated the APA's procedural requirements because it was not a logical outgrowth from the proposed rule. So that decision was huge, and it now sets the stage for the Fifth Circuit to review a final merits decision on this issue of the ATF's overreach, its ability to create these types of rules, which is completely redefining what SBRs are. That's essentially what the ATF did, is they expanded the definition of an SBR so that it now includes all braced pistols. In response to that new decision, the ATF first sought a stay from Judge O'Connor. They wanted him to stay his nationwide vacatur, but that was denied. And then the ATF decided to appeal up to the Fifth Circuit, and they were granted the appeal, but the ATF also did not seek a stay from the Fifth Circuit, which means as of right now, for everyone concerned about your braced pistols, right now the nationwide vacatur of the rule is still in place, so it is lawful to possess and use those braced pistols as long as it does not conflict with your state laws as well. So there's a single case moving forward right now in the Fifth Circuit, that's the Mock case, and the ATF would like for the Fifth Circuit to remove that nationwide block so that they can once again implement the pistol brace rule. Now, in the ATF's final brief, they asked for the Fifth Circuit to review three main things: whether the plaintiffs are entitled to relief on the logical outgrowth claim, second, whether the rule is arbitrary and capricious, and third, whether the district court's universal vacatur was impermissibly overbroad. The ATF states that the notice of proposed rulemaking provided sufficient notice to permit interested parties to comment. Although the rule heeded commenters' concerns by declining to adopt the proposed rule's specific proposals, the proposed rule previewed the rule's reliance on objective evidence of intent and the specific probative evidence identified in the rule. The ATF then goes on to argue now in the Fifth Circuit that the final rule did not violate that test. They argue that the proposed rules report card system had themes and objectives and other identifiers in it that then were carried over into the final rule. And because of that, they believe that it still meets the logical outgrowth test. So finally, the ATF argues that at the very least, the Fifth Circuit should remand this case back down to Judge O'Connor because they believe that Judge O'Connor cannot issue a universal vacatur of the rule, especially when it involves a tax requirement, specifically here when it involves the NFA's tax requirement. The ATF believes that the Tax Anti-Injunction Act, also known as the AIA, invalidates the nationwide block because it would stop the payment of a required tax under the NFA. The ATF argues to the Fifth Circuit that the district court's vacatur of the rule in all of its applications violated the Tax Anti-Injunction Act, which generally prohibits courts from restraining the assessment or collection of any tax. The district court dismissed this argument based on its belief that vacatures, as opposed to injunctions, are categorically not implicated by the statute. As the government explained, that conclusion was incorrect, and plaintiffs thus properly do not defend the district court's reasoning. Instead, plaintiffs contend that the district court's vacatur does not violate the statute for two other reasons. First, because the rule disclaims the agency's intent to collect taxes for certain previous possessors of braced firearms, and second, because the plaintiffs claim they do not seek to prevent the agencies from collecting taxes, but instead to receive a declaration that the items at issue are not subject to the NFA's tax. Neither of those arguments are availing. The point of the Tax Anti-Injunction Act is that the agencies, not the district court, gets to determine in the first instance whether the items at issue are subject to the NFA's tax. If plaintiffs disagree with the agency's determination, they may seek a refund and litigate their claims, but only after they have paid the tax. That plaintiffs may bring a pre-enforcement challenge to the rule as applied in other contexts says nothing about whether the district court's vacatur was overbroad. They go on to state that the Tax Anti-Injunction Act, which generally prohibits suits for the purposes of restraining the assessment and collection of any tax, bars the universal vacatur entered by the district court. The NFA establishes a tax on the making and transfer of short-barreled rifles, and the district court's universal vacatur impermissibly interferes with the ATF's chosen method of assessing that tax. So one of the main takeaways from that and the main takeaways from the arguments that the ATF is now making is that under the Tax Anti-Injunction Act, and specifically in the collection of the NFA's tax requirement here when it comes to braced pistols, and their definition of them as SBRs, the ATF believes that this lawsuit is invalid and should not move forward. Primarily because they say if you wanted to challenge the NFA's tax requirement here when it applies to braced pistols, you have to go through the agency application. But before you do that, you have to pay the NFA tax, you have to seek a refund, and if you don't get a refund of that money, well, then you would have to litigate that based specifically on the refund not being granted. So they're saying that there's a different type of lawsuit that you have to bring, but this lawsuit is impermissible because you did not follow the agency's steps. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you will know that the ATF first rolled out the AIA NFA tax argument. They first did that when it came to the Texas suppressor appeal, when it came to Made in Texas suppressors. At that time, the ATF used that to avoid the suppressor freedom lawsuit because they argued it would allow people to avoid paying a required NFA tax. Ultimately, that case was dismissed on other standing issues, but now they're trying to use that same argument here when it comes to pistol braces. The ATF claims that the nationwide vacatur was relief, which actually violates the AIA and goes beyond what the district court could grant. And at the very least, he should have granted just relief for the individual plaintiffs in that lawsuit. But primarily, they want this entire lawsuit thrown out. And they want the court here, the Fifth Circuit, to find that the AIA bars this type of lawsuit. So the NFA tax requirement is becoming a highly contested issue when it comes to this pistol brace challenge. The final brief from the ATF is now submitted, and now we're going to be waiting for the Fifth Circuit to set oral arguments so that they can hear arguments on these issues and a lot of the other issues here when it comes to pistol braces and them being defined as SBRs. So this is a very interesting development in this case. We're going to see how this plays out. If we get any more information, I will let you guys know, but the general good news right now is that the nationwide vacatur of the pistol brace rule is still in place. Pistol braces, braced pistols, all of that are still lawful as long as it does not violate your state laws because there's a lot of state restrictions as well on braced pistols. So if we get any more information, I will let you guys know. If you like this video and you would like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm, and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of 2A news. But as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.